This is more than just a podcast. It's a moment to stop, to breathe, to notice how you've been showing up. We were taught to push through, to stay strong, to hold it all together even when it cost us connection. But fatherhood was never meant to be survival. Here, we slow down before we raise our voice. We regulate before we correct. We learn that presence does more than pressure ever could. Because when a father changes how he shows up, the entire home shifts. Children feel safe instead of tense, partners feel supported instead of alone, and calm replaces chaos. Brothers, this is where awareness becomes action, where healing becomes leadership, where strength is measured by steadiness, not control. This is 15 Minutes with Dad, and this is the work, this is the responsibility, and this is how we change generations. Welcome back to 15 Minutes with Dad. Over the last few episodes, we've been building this framework brick by brick. We talked about calm leadership. We talked about triggers, trauma, and tone. We talked about structure and how predictability creates emotional safety. Today, we're talking about something that sits underneath all of it: connection. Because one trend showing up in parenting conversations everywhere right now is this: parents are exhausted, children are emotionally overwhelmed, and families are spending more time correcting behavior than building relationships. You see it in fatherhood forums, you hear it in co-parenting conversations, you see dads asking, why won't my child listen? Or why do they shut down? Or why does every conversation turn into conflict? And research is continuing to show something powerful. Children cooperate more with adults they feel emotionally safe around. Not emotionally controlled by, emotionally connected to. So today we're talking about connection before correction. All right, so I'm going to level set with you guys because most of us for sure did not grow up in an emotionally connected home. We grew up in homes focused on obedience. If you're in my generation or before, it was focused on behavior, compliance, punishment. If you messed up, you got corrected. And for many fathers, correction came with yelling, intimidation, lectures, shame, emotional distance where we shut down. But we have very little curiosity. There was very little curiosity. There was very little emotional guidance, which is why we get a lot of men today that were raised by our fathers or absent or no father at all have this big gap. So now as adults, many dads default to the very same thing. The child acts out, we correct immediately. But psychologists are finding that children cannot learn effectively when they feel emotionally threatened. Someone like Dr. Dan Siegel talks about how emotional overwhelm shuts down the reasoning part of the brain, which means in those heated moments, children are not learning. They are simply surviving. And survival mode blocks the connection. So connection isn't a weakness. Connection is how the nervous system works. So there's been research around attachment theory, and it continues to show that secure emotional bonds improve emotional regulation. It improves confidence, communication, resilience, and long-term behavioral outcomes. Now, when children feel emotionally safe, they become more cooperative because they trust the relationship, not because they fear consequences. Now, one thing modern fathers are talking about more openly online is this realization. I don't want my kid to fear me the way I feared my parents or I feared my dad. And that conversation is growing fast, especially among dads trying to balance leadership with emotional presence. Because fear creates short-term compliance, but connection creates long-term trust. And trust changes everything. Now, let's be honest. There are still a lot of parenting conversations rooted in this particular idea. Kids are too soft nowadays. I heard people say it myself. I've said it, or they need discipline, or the world is hard. These are truths. There's truths inside some of these concerns. But children absolutely need boundaries, accountability, resilience, emotional regulation, and responsibility. But toughness without emotional safety creates emotional distance. Now, so many adults today are successful externally while internally struggling with things like anxiety, emotional suppression, avoidance, fear of failure, people pleasing, difficulty expressing vulnerability, and a growing number of men are now connecting those struggles back to childhood environments where emotional safety was missing. Now, this is why connection matters. Connection does not remove the accountability. It makes accountability more effective. Now, one pattern I keep seeing in fatherhood conversation is this. Fathers often move into fixing mode too quickly. The child comes with emotions. Dad responds with solutions. The teenager opens up. The dad responds with lectures. Their partner expresses frustration. The dad responds with defense. But people do not always need fixing first. Sometimes they need understanding first. And this was a huge realization for me personally with my teenager, is that she's not looking for a lecture. She's just looking to vent and express how she feels and just process it by putting it out loud in the world. And especially parenting a teenager, there were moments where I genuinely believed I was helping because I was giving guidance. But what she needed first was just the safety. She didn't need correction. And children listen differently once they feel heard. Like now, my daughter, she sits and she listens to me and she nods and says, okay, if I get into a place where I feel like there's a little bit of guidance, but I talk about me in those moments where I may be teaching. I'm not necessarily talking about her situation. I just relating like, okay, yeah, I've been there before. Like there's some things that I've done that I wish I could do differently. These are lessons that I've learned that maybe you can take on. So let's talk about what connection actually looks like. It's not permissiveness. Connection sounds like, okay, talk to me. All right, help me understand. Or I can see you're overwhelmed. Or I'm here. It looks like having eye contact, a calm tone, patience, listening without interrupting, staying emotionally steady during difficult moments. I can tell you, my daughter tests me quite often with the things that she go through in her life and the way she processes this stuff. It puts me on absolute edge at all times, but I don't, and she knows it. She sees that I am visibly uncomfortable sometimes, and I have to sit there and just listen and be like, in my head, I can say all the things, but I don't always tell her like, that's a dumb decision. Why would you do that? Like I'd be wanting to say those things, but I don't say those things. And I just ask more questions to help me understand more before I get deep into it, because she has a sense of logic somewhere. So, and one thing that research keeps reinforcing is that parental tone matters tremendously. Children respond to nervous systems before they respond to words. Your body communicates safety before your mouth does. Now, let's keep in mind that connection changes across the developmental stages of children. So, as a toddler, toddlers need physical reassurance and a calm presence. Kids need emotional language and validation. That's where you teach them how to express those words. Preteens need curiosity instead of interrogation. That's the asking the questions and how can you do this better? Like what are some ways you would do this differently? And teenagers, they need respect, space, and emotional steadiness. Like, Dad, I got this. Let me try. Let me make mistakes, but also let me learn. And adolescents especially are navigating a completely different world than previous generations. Think about it. There's social media pressure. We didn't have that. There's identity pressure, mental health pressure, constant comparison, and they see it so much faster than we did. We only could compare ourselves to the folks in our school. These kids are seeing everybody and comparing themselves to everybody of all different facts of life and trying to figure out who they are in that mess. More teens are discussing anxiety, loneliness, emotional overwhelm openly than ever before, which means fathers who can create emotional safety become incredibly important. And we don't need perfect fathers. We need present fathers. Let me give you practical tools you can apply immediately if you want to. The first one is slow the moment down. Most conflict escalates because parents speed up emotionally. They get emotionally enthralled. Just pause first. Take a deep breath. Pause first. The second one is super important, and you can do this in any part of your life. Validate before correcting. Validation is not agreement, and it's not just you accepting everything for what it is. It simply means I see your emotion. Stay curious longer. If you ask more questions before giving solutions, you'll find that they actually solved most of the problem themselves. But give them the space to, especially if you have a teenager, give them the space to think through a solution of how they could have done it better. But ask more questions. 4, this is one that is a challenge for me sometimes. But lower your tone. Calm nervous systems create calmer conversations. And then 5, repair quickly. Every parent misses moments. Repair builds trust more than that perfection ever will. Have to repair. This episode connects deeply to the Aligned Father series because alignment is not about controlling your family. It's about creating an emotional environment where people feel safe enough to grow. The Aligned Father understands connection builds influence, emotional safety builds trust, calm leadership creates stronger homes, and one of the greatest shifts a father can make is moving from how do I control behavior to how do I protect connection while guiding behavior. That question will change your family. So in closing, if there's one thing I want fathers to take from today is this. Your child's behavior is communication before it is defiance. And children are far more likely to receive correction from someone who first made them feel emotionally safe. It's connection is not softness, it's leadership. And in this next episode, we're talking about boundaries, how to say no without power struggles, fear, and emotional distance. Until then, try this. The next time your child is struggling emotionally, pause before correcting. Connect first. You may be surprised how much easier the correction becomes after. Before you move on, let's pause here. Because growth doesn't happen in the listening. It happens in what you choose next. So you don't need to change everything. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to be present. Stay present long enough to practice something different. So carry this into your home, into those small moments, the hard conversations, and the quiet decisions no one applauds. That's where fatherhood is built. And if something here resonated, let it become action. Let it become consistency, or become the way that you lead. Because this is how trust is formed. This is how safety is felt, and this is how generational change actually happens. And if this episode helps you, share it with another father who's trying to do better. And if you have a story, a win, or a lesson you're learning, email me at Lirec, Lirec, at 15minuteswithdad.com. That's Lirec at 15minuteswithdad.com. Because this work grows through shared experiences.